Chapter 14 of Sisters. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. This reading by Lucy Burgoyne. Sisters by Ada Cambridge. Chapter 14. There was an attic at the top of a dark flight of stairs in the suburban villa that was now the sisters' home. It contained a fireplace and a long dormer window, three square casements in a row, of which the outer pair opened like doors, facing the morning sun and a country landscape. The previous tenants had used it for a box and lumber room, and left it cobwebbed, filthy and asphyxiating. Deb ordered a charwoman to clean it, and a man to distemper the grubby plaster and stain the floor, and then laid down rugs, and assembled tables and books, and basket chairs, and girls' odds and ends, whereby it was transformed into a cosy boudoir and their favourite room. Hither came Mary when she could escape from that treadmill of which she never spoke, bringing her black-eyed boy to astonish his aunts with his cleverness, and astonishing them herself with the heretical notions which an intimate association with orthodoxy seemed to have implanted in her. But Bennet was not admitted, nor any other outsider. The little bricked hearth, when reminiscent wood fires burned on it, was a pleasant gathering place in cold weather, but it was the window in the projecting gable towards which the sisters most commonly converged. It was about 8 foot long by 2 feet high, and close up under it, nearly flush with its sill, stood a substantial 6 foot by 4 table, the chairs at either end comfortably filling the rest of the alcove. They could sit here to write or sew, or drink afternoon tea, and look out upon as pleasant a rural landscape, the Malvern Hills, as any suburban villa could command. It was that view, indeed, which had decided Deb to take the house. There was, of course, a towny foreground to it, and this it was, rather than the distant blue ranges, that held the gaze of Rose Pennycuick when she looked forth, the backyard of the villa next to their own. It was a well-washed and swept enclosure, spacious and well appointed, and amongst its appointments displayed a semicircular platform of brickwork, slightly raised above the asphalted ground, and supporting the biggest and best dog kennel that she had ever seen. "Those are nice people," she remarked, "for they have given their dog as good a house as they have given themselves. Isn't it a beauty? I wish to goodness everybody was as considerate for the poor things. I wonder what sort of a dear beast it is." She watched so long for its appearance that she thought the kennel untenanted, but presently saw a maid come out from the house with a tin dish. This she dumped upon the brick platform, turning her back instantly, and a fine, ruffed, feather-tailed collie stepped over the kennel threshold to get his dinner. "Chained!" cried Rose, "and she never spoke to him." Deb looked over her shoulder, sympathetically concerned. "Is he really? What a shame! I expect they are too awfully clean and tidy to stand a dog's paws on anything, but no doubt they let him out for a run." Rose waited for days, and never saw this happen. The master of the house, and a dapper young man, his son, went to town every morning at a certain hour, evidently for the day's business. A stout, smart lady, with smart daughters, was seen going forth in the afternoons. The maids took their little outings, but no one took the dog. He lived alone on his patch of brick, either hidden in the kennel or lying in the sun with his nose between his paws. He had his food regularly, for it was a regular household, but beyond that, no notice seemed taken of him. Rose, worked up from day to day, declared at last that she could not stand it. "Why, what can you do?" said Deb. "He is their dog, not yours." "Oh, I don't know, but I must do something." One moonlight night she heard him, always silent and supine, except when suspicious persons came into the yard, baying softly to himself, plainly to her, voicing the weariness of his unhappy life. She sat up in bed and listened to him, and to his master shouting to him at intervals to be quiet, and she wept with sympathetic grief. It was a Saturday night. On Sunday morning she excused herself from going to church. She saw Deb and Francie go, and she saw the family of the next house go, heard their front door bang, and caught gleams of smart dresses through the foliage of their front garden. Then she put on her hat and stole forth to intercede for the collie with the cook of his establishment, a kindly looking person who had once been observed to pat his head. The gleaming imitation mahogany door at which she rang with a determined hand but a fluttering heart, was, to her dismay, opened to her by a young man, the son of the house, whom she had seen going to business every weekday morning, tailored beautifully, and wearing a silk hat that dazzled one. He was now in a very old suit, flannel shirted and collarless, so that at first she did not recognise him. The desire of each was to turn and fly, but the necessity upon them was to face their joint mishap and see it through. Crimson, the young man mumbled apologies for his state of unreadiness to receive ladies. Equally crimson, Rose begged him not to mention it, and apologised for her own untimely call. "Miss Pennycuick, I believe," stammered he, with an awkward bow. "Miss Rose Pennycuick, yes," said she, struggling through her overwhelming embarrassment. "I called. I wanted. I might I speak to you for just 1 minute, Mr Breen?" She had lived beside him long enough to know his name, also his occupation. The Breens were drapers. Their shop in the city was not to be compared with Buckley and Nunn's or Robertson and Moffat's, but it was a good shop in its way, as this good home of the proprietors testified. "Certainly," said young Mr Breen, whose name was Peter. "With pleasure. By all means. Walk in, Miss Pennycuick." She walked into a gorgeous drawing room, where all was the best, and wore that shining air of furniture too valuable for daily use. Mr Peter drew up a cream linen blind that was one mass of lace insertion, and apologised anew for his unseemly costume. "The fact is, Miss Pennycuick, I hope you won't be shocked at my doing such things on Sunday. I was cleaning my gun. There is a holiday this week, and I am going shooting with a friend. It was he I expected to see when I went to the door in this state." "Oh," said Rose, more at ease. "I often do things on Sunday. I don't see why not. In fact, I am doing something now." She cast about for words wherein to explain her errand, while he shot a stealthy glance at her. Though not beautiful like Deb and Francie, she was a wholesome, healthy, bonny creature, and he was as well aware of her position in life as she was of his. "I came, Mr Breen. I thought there were only servants in the house. I am sure you must wonder how I can take such a liberty, such an utter stranger, but I wanted to speak about that poor dog of yours." "Bruce, eh?" Enlightenment seemed to come to the young man. "You have called to complain of the row he made last night? We were only saying at breakfast." "No, no, indeed." Rose spread out protesting hands, and ceased to feel embarrassed. "Not to complain of him, poor dear, but if you will forgive such impertinence, to ask somebody, I thought, I should